Huh. Okay. Looks like stream was deleted on Facebook. Very interesting. Well, with that being said, let me open up my YouTube and see what's going on here. Just getting everything set up, folks, before we get started, okay? All right. Let's see here. If I go to YouTube, here we go. And I hit share, copy. I'm just making sure we post this to the appropriate platforms, everybody. So just bear with me for a couple minutes. I'm going to be posting this to our YouTube and inside our Recovery Academy school community as well. Okay. So just bear with me. Whilst I do this, I would love to hear where everybody is from. So if you have joined the stream, which I can see we have about 30 people in here as well, feel free to tell me where you're from, and I'll go ahead and read that out from the comments. I see we have a few people in the comments already here. Marek, we have the Simon 2K. I remember that name. It's good to see you. Emmanuel, Nicola, very good. We have Mirjam. I think I pronounced that right. Dolphimu. Wow, we have people from all around the world. I'm seeing Czech Republic, New Zealand, UK, Portugal, Norway, France. Excellent. Myself, I'm from the United States of America in sunny Central Florida. All right. It's good to see everybody. Bear with me for a couple minutes while I get this set up in our Facebook group as well. Okay. Thank you for your patience. We'll get started here in a second. Until then, make yourselves comfortable, grab a snack, grab a blanket, a drink, whatever it is, and we'll get started here very soon. This is going to be a good one. I feel it. Okay. All right. Hey, everyone. Please join us for our live stream taking place currently on YouTube. And then I'll hit a little paste here. Gonna post that to there, and then I'm going to post it to one more place before we get started. Okay, I just checked the chat again. Good to go. All right. And Miguel, can I add you to the stage? Perfect.
Yes, sir. Hello, everybody.
Hey, man. Change your microphone output for me, dude. I think your output's coming through your speakers, or your input is coming through somewhere. Your mic's not picking it up. So we'll get some tweaks in here. Whilst I'm posting the links, Miguel, because it didn't work with the Facebook. So I'm posting the YouTube link in our Facebook community, and I'm also going to be posting it in school as well. And I'm just telling everybody to get comfortable, get a snack, get something to drink while we go through this. It's going to be a good call. I had everybody share also where they're from too. So
nice. My audio a lot better now.
That'll be good. All right, there we go. Zoom out, get a good. And whilst we wait for Miguel to get his microphone fixed and sorted and ready,
how's my microphone now?
Get started here. It'll just take a couple minutes. Okay.
Thank
you everybody for your patience. And I'm gonna post this in school as well.
Oh, there we go. They should be able to
hear myself for a live stream. Q&A taking place now. Click the link below. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, let me message Junior.
Excellent.
I think they can hear.
Perfect. All right. I think I got everything set up. Let's go ahead and check the chat, see where everybody is from. We have 42 people in here. And that is the size of a mini lecture hall, if I don't say so myself. We have Tony from Atlanta, Georgia. We have Madalena from Bucharest. I've actually never heard of that place. So excuse my ignorance there. We have Harriet from the UK, Charlotte. UK. Excellent. We have a lot of people. Shandi, the audio is a little bit better. Miguel, can you speak for me?
Yeah. Test 1 2 3.
Nothing is
No?
actually coming out of your microphone now.
I guess
I hear nothing at all.
they said they can hear me. Can you guys hear me on YouTube? Let us know.
I
if
hear
you guys can hear
I see your mouth moving. I literally hear nothing at all. So
Yeah.
nothing's coming through. We might need
Let's-
to maybe switch to your laptop or your iPad or something. I don't think the microphone is
No,
working.
they can hear me.
Let's see.
They can.
Oh wait. You guys can hear me. Oh, am I the problem? Holy crap. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Why can't I hear you? Is this a me problem?
It might be. I think you got to go into the settings.
Hold on now. I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah.
Okay, Miguel, you take the reins on this. Okay.
Cool.
Thumbs up.
Cool. Yep. It was you, Junior, but great to see everybody on here. Well, it gives us extra time because people have been trickling in, which is great. So glad you guys can hear me now. And I know you guys were introducing yourselves from where you're all from. Can you hear me now, Junior?
My volume was turned down.
That's probably why. I thought I was going crazy. But awesome to be here, guys. Really excited to do this live Q&A call. We do this every now and then just to give you guys a whole bunch of golden nuggets. So we got people tuning in from all over. And there's going to be more people trickling in as we go. But yeah, let's jump right into this. This is going to be an action-packed next 90 minutes over here. So feel free to ask some questions. Actually, let's hear some wins. Actually, let's see it in the comments. What kind of wins do you guys got? What kind of progress are you making? We would love to hear. I see a bunch of familiar names over here. How's it going, Jackie, Geraldine? You got so many thrivers in here and everybody else on here. So let us know some of your biggest wins the past couple weeks, whether it was walking more, being able to get outside, maybe sitting up at the dinner table, eating for the first time in a long time. Let us know. All righty. Oh, look at this. Cooked for my family last night for the first time in 6 months and walked their dog first time in 6 months. That is awesome, Harriet. So amazing when you can do things for the first time in a long time. Having pretty much symptom-free days trickling in here and there. Amazing job, Shandy.
Mm-hmm.
Geraldine, nice to see you. Was able to drop and pick my little one up from kindergarten. Nice. I was bedbound for 8 months, and last week I could be out in a wheelchair 5 days in a row. Amazing. That is awesome. You know, those wheelchair wins, those were actually some of my favorite wins because going from bedbound to a wheelchair, that's a different world, a completely different reality. So I was just as excited, if not more excited about that than I was, maybe hiking up a mountain in Hawaii. Like, honestly, just because it's so different. Expanded to triple my capacity last week. Went on a 5-hour car trip. Nice. Went to the store alone for the first time yesterday in a long time. Good job, Tony. Working in the morning for 3 hours. From Nicola, sitting more than lying while working from home. Amazing, Kathy. Yeah, see, look at all these wins. This is how we want to start off the call. Really show you guys recovery is possible. All that stuff out there that says, 5% recovery rate, it's garbage. So it's absolutely possible to recover from this stuff. And it can be very predictable too. It's not a guessing game. You don't just have to get lucky and recover. Like, you could do things to really move the needle. Jackie, working 3 days a week, gym as much as I want. Nice. Continuing my service to others. Life is great. Awesome to see you, Jackie. Kevin, last week felt good. 3,500 steps a day. First time. Now in an AP. So great. Shanna. Remained calm. Responded well to symptoms. More complex video games. Really good stuff. So as we can see here, people are recovering. They're getting better little by little. You just take it one step at a time. Next thing you know, you got thriving health, down the road. So let's jump into it. you guys can start asking some questions. We're going to try our best to get to all of them, but we'll try to what is it? Hit multiple. What do you do? What do they call it? 2 birds, 1 stone. We'll try to hit like 5 birds, 1 stone with these questions. There's probably going to be a lot of similarities, but we'll try to answer them as best we can. So let's see here. Okay, here's a basic question: how to expand activity with small children at home. So I'm guessing, so you're the parent with this. Junior, you want to chime in on this first?
Sure. And it's questions like these that really test the creativity of an individual, right? And it's something that we actually sometimes don't often think about when it comes to what the answer actually is. Because when somebody asks me a question of, Junior, I have children, how am I able to expand activity, um, you know, on top of my children and my responsibilities at home? Well, the thing is, we don't have to pin one against the other. Is it my children, or do I have to choose between that and expanding activity? But more so, I'm all about the gray area. I don't like pinning things together or pinning things apart because that's really black and white. That's really extreme. Instead, the gray area would be, for me, using your children as the way that you expand activity, actually, believe it or not. So, doing activities with your children that also are aligned with some things that you value and interest, right? So you can put those things together. Because oftentimes when I speak to parents, it's like I can't expand activity because my children are using up all of my physical resource, but more so switching it over to I'm actually using my children as an opportunity to expand my activity. The only thing that needed a change was how I reframed how I spent physical time with my children because before I saw it as an inconvenience, something that was holding me back and stopping me from being able to expand activity. But more so, it's my children are the way to help me expand activity. And I'm reframing this as more of an opportunity, as a good thing, as something that's not holding me back. So when you talk about 2 birds with 1 stone, Miguel, I think that's my answer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people can initially see having kids as a potential roadblock in recovery just because it takes up it does take up energy. It can take up energy, and we can feel like, how am I going to put energy into my recovery when it's going to my kids? But you want to flip that on its head, just like Junior said. uh, you know they become the purpose, they become your motivation for recovery, and they give you energy. So we work with a lot of people, a lot of parents, and once we help them reframe that, recovery can really take off. So just because you have kids, it doesn't necessarily need to be harder. You can actually use it as fuel. So that's what we would say about that. But hope that helps. Let's see. There's so many questions. I kind of lost where we were at. Oh, here it is. So Nicola, hope that helps with that question.
Mm.
Let's go to here. This is a common one. Do you think I can get rid of CFS even with social anxiety, or I need to first work on social anxiety? Do you have any experience with people that have social anxiety? Yes. A lot of people have this, actually. I think it comes from the analytical mindset. We tend to overthink things. We're wondering what people are thinking about us, wondering if we're going to say the right things. So we tend to put a lot of unnecessary pressure on ourselves, which over time that leads to it can lead to a hypersensitive nervous system. So it's something you work on as you recover. And I don't know exactly your situation, so I don't know if you're dealing with a lot of other symptoms or if you're bedridden or couchbound or things like that. So I would work on both of them hand in hand. I mean, if you're feeling a lot more symptomatic and you're at home and you're not socializing much anyways, I would save the socializing stuff for later on once you're more functional and you could go out more regularly. But if you are currently going out right now, like you're able to go to the mall and meet up with friends and things like that, I think a lot of it is just taking pressure off yourself to say the right things And when you do that, it will help speed up recovery. But I don't think this is a complete roadblock. Like even if you have social anxiety, you could still recover. A lot of people recover, and after they're fully functional, then they work on this kind of stuff. But do you have anything to say about that, Junior?
Yeah, I mean, with social anxiety, if you take a general zoom out and really take a look at it, CFS is the nervous system in the brain trying to protect you from danger, whether perceived or real, right? That's the reason why we have symptoms. If you take a look at social anxiety, it's also your brain and nervous system trying to protect you from uh, social situations because it, for whatever reason, deems communication, conversations, and social situations as dangerous. So, if you take a look at both of those examples, it's essentially your brain and nervous system trying to protect you from something that's dangerous, right? In social anxiety, it's conversation, communicating, and talking. With CFS, it might be protecting you from something that we might have unconsciously trained, like walking, exercising, or increasing physical activity or eating food. Both of those things are actually approached the exact same way. So whether you're training your brain that conversations are safe again, or whether you're training your brain that walking is safe again, at the end of the day, you're training your brain that something that your brain perceives as dangerous is once again safe again. So taking away the labels of CFS and social anxiety and just taking a look at it as a whole, that you're just retraining your brain into safety, it's approached the same way, which is why Miguel said, absolutely, you can recover from both because they have the same core root issue. I hope you understand, Marik. So,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Junior, I'll let you choose the next question. I'm going to post this link all over, post it on my Instagram.
yeah, on Instagram and stuff. Okay. Oh, I got lost in these comments, man. Hold on.
It is a lot.
I know. Let me see here. Hmm. Here's a good one here. So we have Dolphin Mew. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly. How often do you want to be having symptoms in recovery? Do you ever want to be symptom free? I think we should replace the word want, Dolphy, with expect. Okay. Because nobody wants to have symptoms. That's the thing. So, how often we can expect to have symptoms in recovery? I can't speak for everybody, but just based off me and my own experience, I had symptoms pretty much the entire time throughout my recovery, even all the way leading up into the end. It was just a matter of if it was more symptoms, which was meaning I was in an adjustment period, or if I had less symptoms and they were manageable, which means I was out of an adjustment period and I can do a little bit more. Um, Now, do you ever expect to have points during your recovery where you have days where you are symptom free? Absolutely. And you will definitely experience those days, especially in the later stages of your recovery. You will experience those days in little blips here and there to start off at first, but eventually over time, as you keep going, you'll get that more and more often and it'll become more consistent until eventually you'll start to become one of those people that actually blurs the lines between whether it's a CFS symptom or just a regular everyday life symptom. And then we make the transition into a life beyond recovery. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And let me see. My mic's still working?
It is. Yeah, it's a little overblown. The gain's a little loud,
Yeah.
but
Okay. Is this better? How about this?
yeah,
A little bit
better.
better?
Better.
Okay. Yeah. So with the symptoms, yeah, I completely agree. You don't, I mean, obviously, you don't want to be having symptoms and we want to be symptom free, but understand that, those symptoms will linger quite a bit, uh, probably longer than most people think, but it gets to the point where you don't even really care about it. It's really just background noise in your life. So I feel like I always end up sharing this PDF uh, with people when I run these calls. So I'm going to show you guys really quickly.
Very
You
nice.
know,
Miguel, turn
how long
yourself
will
up a
it?
little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. Let me turn it up. How long will it take the symptoms? How long will it
Better.
take for the
Better.
symptoms to go away? It's good. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. So the way I kind of segmented it, and this is not an absolute. This is just something I came up with off the top of my head to help me make sense of what was going on. Is there's primary symptoms and secondary symptoms. So I put this document together really early on when I first started CFS recovery. But if you've been suffering with CFS or long COVID for a while, then you probably ask yourself this question 1,000 times: when will the symptoms go away? Want the truth? Well, probably not anytime soon. Now, I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but there is a concept you need to understand about how symptoms come and go throughout your recovery journey. It can be super confusing trying to even keep track of all the symptoms you're feeling in your body. So we've simplified it and broken down symptoms into just 2 categories, just to give you an idea of what's going on here and you can visualize it. So there's something like primary symptoms and secondary symptoms. Some examples are primary symptoms like fatigue, that wired and buzzing feeling, general anxiety, brain fog, like all the main ones. And then secondary symptoms can be all the really strange ones that tend to come and go: shortness of breath, floaters in your vision, nausea, vertigo, heart palpitations, ringing in ears. Now, again, this is not exact. You can have some secondary symptom, or you can have some of these symptoms listed here under secondary symptoms. You might have them all the time. So this is just a rough guideline. But primary symptoms, what you need to understand is these seem to linger and rarely go away, while secondary symptoms seem to be more periodical and they come in intervals, and they're more noticeable when they do come. Okay, so primary symptoms tend to be quite steady, occasionally increasing in intensity when we are in adjustment periods or flare-ups. We call them adjustment periods. But over time, those primary symptoms are steadily reduced. If you're on track and things are moving in the right direction. And on top of all of this, there's also secondary symptoms layered. So it's like a layer. You got a base layer of symptoms, and you got another layer on top of it. And those ones fluctuate more intensely. But it's really important to note that these fluctuations, whenever they increase, that's okay. That is part of the process. You don't have to avoid symptoms at all costs. Just accept that they're going to be there. Actually, the more we try to make them go away faster, the longer they tend to stick around for. So just know that they're necessary. Adjustment periods are necessary in order to retrain your nervous system. And the most important thing is your success is determined by how well you respond to symptoms. Because by responding well, you are recalibrating your nervous system, shifting it back to more of a normal state versus being stuck in this fight or flight or freeze mode. So whenever I was having symptoms, especially during flare-ups, I would see this in my mind. It's just another layer of symptoms, but I know it's going to go away. It's just a wave kind of washing over me. And then over time, these get less intense, but you'll still have that lingering fatigue, lingering general anxiety. Could be a few other things, but that's kind of how it works. But does that make sense for you guys? And for some of you, this might be like the 10th time I've shown you this, but some of you maybe the first time. But does this make sense? That there is actually a method to this madness. Like, these symptoms are not just random. They will come in waves, but the good news is over time, as you get better and better and your body becomes more functional, there's like a downward trend here, which is what we're looking for. Right? And sometimes you might have like a temporary spike, like might jump up here, but then it comes back down, and that's okay. But hope that makes sense for you guys. I just wanted to cover that in terms of symptoms. I'll stop sharing my screen. Cool. All right, I'll pick up the next question. Let's see here. Let's see. How long should... Ooh, here we go. Harriet, so how long should expanding periods be? How do you know when to continue or stop expanding? Is it the same with an AP where it varies massively depending on how you feel symptom-wise? It's a great question. We get this question a lot inside the academy. We actually just created a guide for this that kind of illustrates this. You think we should give them a sneak peek, Junior?
Yeah, go ahead, man, if you want to present it. I think it'll be cool. It'll be very helpful.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but I'm going to pull up another PDF. I love teaching in visuals. So let me find this thing. Let me just share my screen. Let's go inside the academy here. I believe it is in here. Yeah, the blueprint.
What are they
Okay.
looking at right now, Miguel? What it is like to be in the academy? That's what they're looking at.
Yeah, this is inside the academy. Yeah,
Okay.
this is inside the academy. This is just one of the resources inside the classroom. Go to blueprint. If we go to blueprint over here, there is a guide actually specifically for this. So it's essentially, when I read this question, it the deeper question is, what is the optimal zone of activity? Like, how much should I do? How much should I not do? Like, what's the proper pace of recovery? And we like to call it the optimal zone. So in terms of the optimal zone, we created a few different visuals to give you an idea of what to do in this area, right? So capacity expansion guide. In terms of the symptoms, you'll use the symptoms as feedback of finding that optimal zone. And notice how the optimal zone is in the middle here, right? We're trying to stay in the middle ground. We're not going super extreme one way and going all out, pushing through, but we're also not resting too much. We're not sitting on the couch just waiting for the symptoms to go away, because the chances are most likely they're probably not going to go away, right? And we can't wait for them to. So you want to stay in this middle range. There's different levels to this, and there's a color gradient here. So it's white at the bottom, it gets more gray at the top. Just think about the gray as, just more symptomatic at the top, and white is the least amount of symptoms. So at the bottom here, it says, this comes easy to me. Okay, well, you're okay to keep going. This is challenging yet very doable. Yeah, you're still in the safe zone. You're getting into the optimal zone. I can somewhat do this. I think that right there is probably one of the sweet spots or sweet areas in this thing. This is very difficult to do. Okay, now we're pushing it a little bit. We probably want to dial that back, especially in the beginning, right? Especially when you're still trying to implement these frameworks and you're practicing responding well. And then when you're at the point where I cannot do this anymore, that's when it's really time to pull back. So the next question is, okay, what does that mean, right? How do I know if I can do it? Or like, everything feels very difficult. So the way you gauge this is a mix of your actual symptoms, but also I think your level of confidence and how shaky your mindset is. At first, you're probably going to be doing things that are quite easy. You're probably going to be taking it slower, taking the safe route. And as you get more and more confident in responding well to symptoms and handling those adjustment periods, you can push the limits a little bit more. But essentially, you want something, I'd say, when you're starting out, something that's challenging yet very doable. Like, you can do it, right? And you've been doing it, and just slightly expand outside of that. But there's another way to visualize this, which is this, right? Just basically saying the same thing, but with different visuals. Okay, so at the bottom here, no symptoms. This is very little activity. Imagine the left side is very little activity. This is a lot of activity. Okay, so you might have little to no symptoms. Okay, then we can do a little bit more. Then it starts becoming manageable. Okay, great. Yeah, let's keep going. Now you're in this optimal zone over here. When it gets to no longer manageable or even overwhelming, that's your sign. Okay, if we were driving a car, this would be equivalent to the wheels getting shaky. You're getting nervous. Like, if you hit a pebble, what if this whole car flips over, right? We want to stay in this optimal zone. And notice again how there's a gradient here. It's not a hard cutoff. It's not like, oh, once we get to here, slam on the brakes and stop everything we're doing. It's just, okay, let's slow down a little bit. That's another big thing too. You don't want to just slam on the brakes of everything you're doing. Meaning, let's say you stand up to go make a meal and then you start feeling symptoms. Feeling symptoms, that's very normal for CFS. If when you feel symptoms, you go, oh no, this is not good, and immediately you go to your bed, go under the blankets, and you just wait for the symptoms to go away, you're teaching your brain to stay in this kind of survival state. So instead, what you want to do is just dial it back. Okay, maybe sit down, take a little break from the cooking, get someone else to take over, sit on the couch for a little bit. Junior, I know you just made a video about this of, not going from walking around to completely horizontal flat,
Uh-huh.
sit in a recliner chair. People love that video, but you want to talk about this a little bit more too?
I think it's important to understand the balance between the two, because just like in the YouTube video I mentioned, and by the way, if you haven't seen it, what is it titled, Miguel? I think it's physical activity tips and tricks or something along those lines. It's a recent one
Yeah.
that
Tips
you
for
could watch.
expanding activity, something like that.
Yeah, tips for expanding activity, because I think it's really important to understand that whilst absolutely you can overdo it and push a little bit too much, um, you cannot have one without the opposite existing as well. So whilst you can overdo it and do too much, you can also overrest and do too little, and that can act as a disservice as well in your own recovery too. Um, so there's a gray area, there's a middle point in this, and you know we don't like using numbers, we don't like tracking, we don't like telling people how many minutes they should walk, because recovery is not something that should be intellectualized or used as similar to a math equation, but more so an intuitive process, right? And that intuition gets stronger and stronger as you progress. But we try to simplify this intuitive process in a way that breaks it down visually in a form that is hopefully understood by most of you, where you have to understand this is that you're going to have symptoms pretty much all the time, especially in the first part of recovery. You're going to have symptoms. It's just a matter of more or less. Okay. So, symptoms, that's something that's a given, right? But let's say with our symptoms, we're going to do activity, we go out and do things. If our symptoms start to become unmanageable, right? Or very noticeably uncomfortable, or you're starting to tease that line of overwhelm, you want to pull back, you want to take it easy, you want to slow down a little bit. But don't slow down all the way to zero. Just do less than what you were doing before until your symptoms come down to the point where they're manageable. And once they're manageable again, notice I said once they're manageable, not once they're non existent, but once they're manageable again, then start going again a little bit. Miguel, you used a excellent analogy that still resonates with me till this day, where you said, picture yourself driving a car, and in the car you had a speedometer from 0 to 100. What you want to do is gently tap the gas just a little bit until you get to maybe about 70 miles an hour, 70 out of 100. Then once you get to about 70, you're going quite fast at 70, pull back, right? Don't completely take your foot off the gas, but pull back and slow down a little bit till you hit about 30 miles an hour. And then tap the gas again once it hits 30 to go back to 70. So you're going from 30 to 70, 30 to 70, instead of that really black and white extremes that a lot of us are used to, which is we would go from 0 to 100, back to 0 to 100, which when you do it that way, the nervous system has very little time to adapt. And it's very difficult for the nervous system to heal in that state. So that's the reason we've created this visual. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that speedometer, think about something like this. You're in that middle zone. You're not going super slow. If you were a car, you're not going so slow that you're holding up all the other cars on the highway. Also, you're not ripping through traffic, weaving in and out recklessly. You're just going along. It's a nice, peaceful drive. You're cruising. That's what we want. You're cruising here. So that's the optimal zone. So just another way to visualize that. If we were thinking about this in terms of like temperature, like a thermometer, you'd be right in the middle. You're not too hot where you're boiling. You're not freezing cold, right? So you're not having zero symptoms, because that is rare, especially when you're starting out. You're also not having too many symptoms. You're right in that middle, manageable area. So you guys getting the picture here? Like if this were a temperature, you're in that middle ground. It's nice and warm. It's comfortable, right? If it's a dashboard for a car, you're cruising. You're not speeding. You're not slowing down. You're cruising. You're right in that sweet spot. in this chart, you're right in that optimal zone. But is that making sense? Just add in the comments. I want to make sure this is clicking with you guys. Dolphy found it very useful.
Good. Well, what is that that story, Miguel? The porridge is not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. What is that? The Three Little Pigs, or is that Goldilocks or something? Is one of those?
You know,
You guys know
I
what
have
I'm talking
no
about.
idea what I have no idea what story that.
You've
I know
never
something
heard
from
that porridge story? Oh, come on, man.
I might have back in the day. Do they
Maybe
make it
it's an
for
American story? I don't know.
maybe it's an American version of a story. I don't know.
Whatever.
I'm gonna have to research this after. But okay, this is a fairly good question. Deeper into this, could this? Yes, this is great. Thanks so much. Could this vary between hours and then days, or up to a week expanding? Yeah, great question. Glad you asked this. So that's why we had it a little bit more open ended. So these numbers, well, there's no numbers on here, but we used to have a numbering system here. It's like 1 or 0 is no symptoms, 10 is overwhelming, and it would just be really confusing because people would try to figure out which number they're at, and those numbers can change day to day. So that's why we have it manageable and no longer manageable. Even these things change over time. Manageable and no longer manageable, it's really like, what is your tolerance for discomfort? How much
Mm,
can you handle? Doesn't mean just go push it 110% recklessly and just power through it. You know, you want to understand your limits. Know your limits, play within it. Right? It's like that ad for gambling. It can feel like a gamble in the beginning. It's like you put in some chips or you do some things and you're like, wow, I could do that activity. Oh, let me keep going. Basically, what most people do is that they'll keep going until they'll hit that brick wall. And they'll be like, oh shoot, I overdid it. Rest for several weeks or months, then do it again. Build it up, build it up, build it up. Never really taking the time to pull back here and there. So where was I getting at with this? Yes, this could vary between hours and then days. You can totally have a whole week of expanding. But here's some frequently asked questions, right? Do I still follow this chart even when I'm in an adjustment period? Yes, because what's manageable in an adjustment period will probably be lower, or you probably won't be able to tolerate as much in an AP. But still, you're going by that same, I guess, measuring guide, manageable or unmanageable. Is it normal to always have symptoms? Yes, very normal. Do intense emotions count as symptoms? Yes. Yeah. A lot of people miss that. It's not just physical things that come up during flare ups, it's also a lot of emotional things. So, yes, very normal. You could still do activities in adjustment periods. And yeah, that answers your main questions here. But, if you did want to get more access to this stuff, you could try out the Academy. Right now, we're running a trial for 7 days. So you can get access to all of this and check it out. But yeah, lots of helpful resources in there. But I hope that answers your question, Harriet. Cool. You want to pick the next one, Junior? We got a
yeah,
bunch to choose.
sure. I'm gonna have to scroll up a little bit. Let me see here.
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, I like this one. I think you and I can both relate to this, Miguel. Okay. So Kirsty asks, what do you do when your symptoms flare up and you enter an AP, but you can't scale back immediately due to commitments, right? I think we've all been in this situation where we've committed to something, and then in the middle of that something, we start to get adjustment periods, right? Or we start to get a flare up, or we really start feeling uncomfortable. And I think I can speak for most of us here, our first initial reaction is, oh no, this is bad, right? Instead, because that reaction is so automatic. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't have that reaction, because sometimes you're not going to have a choice. You're just initially going to have that reaction. But then catch yourself when you start responding like that, saying, oh no, this is bad. We should leave the premises as soon as possible. Um, right? You want to give yourself a little bit more of a different response by saying, okay, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. It's not the end of the world. I'm not completely overwhelmed. It's okay. I should gently challenge myself just a little bit to keep going, right? But if it ends up getting to a point where you start feeling overwhelmed, right? And your nervous system is screaming at you to go home, and then you keep pushing past that point, um, we don't want you to go into the territory where you are disrespecting your brain, your nervous system, or your body. So that would probably be a good time to set some proper boundaries and take it easy, pull back, and leave. Even if you do have a commitment, because I think, Miguel, you and I have experienced this where we've been somewhere that mentally we felt like we had to do, it was a commitment to do. And then we pushed past the overwhelm and it really didn't go well afterwards. Here's the one thing that I learned, guys. This is a little bit of a hard truth. It's something that you all need to hear. Okay. Your nervous system doesn't care about commitment. It doesn't care about what you have going on in your life, your birthday, your job, your work, your whatever it is. It doesn't. The nervous system, all it knows is I come first. I'm the priority. When I'm overwhelmed, then you're going to have to pull it back and we're going to play by my rules a little bit. And you're going to learn how to respect me. However, you choose to deal with that, deal with it and learn to be creative with how you deal with it if you need to, but you must show me some respect. And once I kind of understood that, um, I had to force myself to learn how to be a little bit more creative and, you know, pulling back during those commitments, how to learn how to set healthy boundaries, even when I made some commitments, right? So, because if I didn't, I found myself just going back to the same old patterns that got me in trouble in the first place. So Miguel, I'll have you chime in on this too, on your experience with these things.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to commitment or commitments in general, I think something you realize as you gain traction is the number one commitment you have is the commitment to yourself. No one
Mhm.
else, no other situation. If you have to pull out of certain plans, you do it because you are the most important commitment. And I think that's actually how a lot of people end up with CFS is they overcommit or they'll put other things before themselves. So just know that you come first. Don't feel bad about putting yourself first, especially during recovery. But let's use an example of a scenario here in terms of some forms of overcommitting. Maybe not to other people, but maybe you kind of bit off more than you thought you could chew. So this would happen sometimes where as I was just reintegrating back into the world, I would say, I'm good to go to the mall. I'm good. I could make it. I could walk across the thing. Next thing you know, I'm in the middle of a mall, about 20 minutes in, and my heart's going crazy. I'm getting palpitations and shortness of breath. I'm kind of dizzy and lightheaded. So at that point, there really is no complete eject button. There's only two options. At least that's how I saw it. There's two options. One, I could start freaking out. I could start panicking, telling myself the door is so far away. I have to walk another 5 minutes that way. Can I even make it? Is this going to put me in a crash? Because that's how I used to think. I would think, man, I'm way too deep in this now. I'm at the point of no return. I really screwed myself over on this. So that's one route I could go. The other route was, oh, okay, well, feeling a lot of symptoms. Let me sit down, catch my breath, and I'll just slowly make my way outside. Right. And I remember it was getting to that point. This is after I learned all of this stuff as well. After I was released from the hospital, after I got out of the wheelchair and was starting to walk again, um, I was sitting there, you know, very hypersensitive. People walking by was kind of agitating my nervous system. I was starting to get that panicky feeling, but I really had to tell myself, you really only have two options: either respond well, or respond the best you can, or just go in a downward spiral and don't even try to respond. I'll just freak out. Like, what do you want to do, Miguel? Well, I know where the spiraling goes. It never really ends well. And what I just did right now, I could probably pay for it for the next, I don't know how long. Or I could just calm down, slow down, focus on what I can control, stay in my 3-foot world, right? And then just make my way out. And so in some situations where you can't hit that eject button immediately, you just have to respond the best you can in that situation. What is the best play here? One thing we definitely don't want to do is pour more fuel on the fire by adding emotions to this, adding fear, adding hypothetical questions. What could happen? What if this and that? That's only going to make it worse. It's going to make the symptoms more intense. So the best thing you can do is say, okay, well, my nervous system is just a little more hypersensitive. Let me pump the brakes a little bit, and then I'll just walk outside after. So just know you're always in control of that. You've always had control over that, which is your response to symptoms. And even when you're bedridden, even when you're in a deep AP and you feel like you're losing control of your whole body, the one thing that you always have control over, that you can be 100% certain of every single time, is you can control your response to symptoms. Doesn't mean it's always pretty. It doesn't mean it's the best way to respond, or it doesn't mean it doesn't mean it looks pretty, doesn't mean you feel great when you're doing it, but you're not allowing yourself to go on that downward spiral. So that's something you do always have control over. Is even when you overcommit to things. I hope that helps.
And sometimes, you guys, there are going to be things in life that you don't have a choice but to do. For example, a funeral. Or, for example, when I was still recovering, I had to take my dad to hospital. Right? And those are things that are commitments that are a have to. It's not like a hanging out with the friends thing, right? And every now and then you are going to have to stretch yourself a little bit thin, but also, like Miguel says, respond well in those situations and say, well, it's not all the time that my dad's in the hospital. Sure, I'm stretching myself a little bit thin here, and sure, I'm probably going to flare up a little bit more afterwards. But this is a commitment. This is something that I chose to do. It feels like I have an obligation and responsibility. I'll take with this what happens afterwards, and I'll respond as well as I can. It's not the end of the world. It will be uncomfortable, but it's okay, and we'll keep going after that, right? So,
yeah, exactly. It's a good question.
mhm.
Very good question. Ooh, I like this. I guess this is in regards to the question earlier about recovering with children, but Jackie says,
Mhm.
my daughter and family became my reason to recover. Reframing it was a game changer. Yeah. Instead of being the roadblock, they become the reason, the sole
Mhm.
purpose, and they give you unlimited fuel. Let's see. Here we go. Marek or Marek. I have tingling and pins and needles all over my body for 3 years. Can I use the pain exercise for that? Because it never gets relief. Yes, pins and needles. I would definitely use the brain retraining exercise for chronic pain for that one. That brain retraining exercise, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's the one where you're glowing, you're expanding and glowing those pain centers and then dimming them. That video looks like, I'll show you guys. It looks like this. Here. Brain retraining simplified, step-by-step guide works for chronic pain. So this is something that helped me with things like pins and needles, with burning sensations all over my body, achy muscles, migraines. The migraines were brutal. The migraines and headaches. It really helped all of those to the point where those actually went away. And I dealt with headaches and migraines for about 3 years. Like, there were a lot of activities I couldn't commit to because too much light or sound or movement would trigger migraines and nausea and like really sharp stabbing pains in my head. But I implemented this, and it didn't take too long for that pain to get down to a level where I was way more functional. I could actually enjoy life. And it wasn't long after that where, the pain was completely gone. And I'll still use this to this day. Like, if I get a cold or something, let me share the link. If I get a cold or something, or I get sick and I have a headache, or like I strain my neck or something, that actually still works. So I would highly recommend that exercise for the tingling and pins and needles. And I'm going to share the link over here. Brain retraining for pain. Boom. Okay. Here we go. Tony, I have a question, and it's a two-parter. I started moving a lot more. expanding myself, and I noticed I would get blood pooling in my legs. Is that a part of the nervous system sensitivity? Very well could be. Number one, I definitely make sure you get this ruled out by doctors. Like, make sure you show them what's going on and they ran their tests and everything. If they're not finding anything, if they're saying your tests are coming back normal, hey, this is going to go away, then yeah, I would chalk it up to a hypersensitive nervous system. I did get this quite a lot, actually. Felt like my legs were pulsing, like my socks were just really tight. That's what it felt like. And they felt bloated. What's the word? Yeah, bloated. So I have definitely seen this symptom, but just make sure you get it ruled out. Let's see. All right, Junior, I'll let you pick the next one.
Okay. Let's see here. I like this one as well. I actually had this symptom, believe it or not. Is there any connection between CFS and depersonalization and derealization? For those of you who don't know what that is, it's well, it could be a few things, right? It could be feeling like you are having almost similar to an out of body experience. But ultimately, the feeling, it feels like you're detached from a sense of reality, or you're not fully in the moment or in control of your reality. Depersonalization, derealization. If you guys have heard the abbreviation for it, DPDR, that's what that is. For me, it was a symptom that didn't last very long. Number one, I thought it was cool. Number two, I kind of played around with it as well. I was very curious when that happened. So for me, my response was very much one that didn't signal that this symptom was dangerous at all, and so my brain kind of picked up on that very quickly and allowed it to pass. For some people, not so easy. It's for some people the scariest experience in the world because they might have a really high value on being in the moment, being present, being in control, right? Being one with themselves. So the experience of this symptom, which is literally feeling the exact opposite, could scare the living crap out of an individual, which could cause them to have the inability or have a really, really challenging time when trying to respond well to this symptom. Okay. So, yes, it is something that I see often with our folks that we work with. It's something that will rotate out. The golden rule again. My question would be for you as a follow up, how are you responding to this symptom when it takes place? And seeing as it is your main question, it's probably causing some concern. So,
Yeah, and it's quite common. I used to get this a lot. I think even before I had CFS, and the more I questioned it, the more I would get it. Then I'd start having really, really deep thoughts. Like I feel like I was having a midlife crisis by the age of like 10 for some reason because I had a lot of derealization. It felt like I was third person viewing my life sometimes. It's kind of weird. But I haven't had that for years, like several years, because I just got so, I guess, I learned to appreciate the moment and live more in the moment. And whenever those feelings did come up, you know, a handful of years ago, I was just like, oh, that now I know what that is. That's derealization. It's like my brain is just I describe it as your brain trying to put airbags on reality because
mm,
it's so used to stress being everywhere. So it's trying to separate itself from reality so it doesn't have to deal with all that stress. So to make itself feel safe, it puts this, I guess, this distance between you and reality. I've heard Sean describe it like that. There's a really good YouTube channel. He's my good buddy, Sean Kassem. He talks a lot about depersonalization and derealization. It's like putting airbags on reality.
mhm.
But you realize over time you don't need airbags on reality because reality could be great. And your brain doesn't need to, I guess, check out in that sense. So don't think about it too much when it does come up and you feel that, just know, oh, that's derealization. That's just, it's temporary. It comes in waves and it'll go away to the point where it just stays gone and it's no longer an issue. So that will go away. I thought that was a great way to describe it though. Airbags on reality.
Me too. Yeah, that pretty much summed it up perfectly how it made me feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. This is a good question. Simon 2K. 2 questions. Does every well-handled AP increase overall baseline? Number 2, how do we know if we're handling an AP well? Staying calm enough? Is staying calm enough? Sometimes I overthink whether I'm responding well or not. So the first question, yes, typically every well-handled AP should increase some kind of area of capacity. Now, here's where it can get tricky for some people. Most people expect that the physical capacity should always increase, and they'll only measure recovery by how much more they can walk or how much more they can do physically, not taking into account the other buckets of activity, like being able to look at screens for a bit longer or hold longer conversations or have less brain fog or tolerate, I guess, 2 episodes of a TV show instead of 1, or even just being able to do the same level of activity that you're doing, but with reduced symptoms. So there's so many different buckets, but from what I've seen, even if people don't realize it, yes, you improve in some area if you respond to the adjustment period well and you complete that progress cycle and come out of it uh, when you're responding well. Some area is going to improve, but it's not
Miguel,
always
I
physical.
like this. I like this analogy. I used it on a group call the other day. You remember when we were kids, man, and we would go to the mall or a restaurant, and you'd see in the front, you would have like those 25-cent machines with a whole bunch of toys in them, like a whole
Yeah.
bunch of like
Yeah.
small toys, or you could get gumballs or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Every time you put 25 cents in and you screw the thing and then a toy comes out, think of that like an adjustment period. Every time you go through an adjustment period and you respond well, that's you putting 25 cents into the machine and doing that thing, and then a toy comes out. Is it the toy that you want that you're looking at through the glass? It
Ooh.
could be the one that you get. It might not be the one that you get, but I guarantee one thing. If you keep putting 25 cents in over and over and over, you're eventually going to empty out that entire machine and get what you want and the things that maybe you need as well. So eventually it will come. When? I don't know. But you keep doing the work, inevitably you will empty out that machine one way or another. Okay.
You're talking about this thing, right?
I'm talking about that thing.
Haven't seen this in a minute. Wow.
Think about those toys, man. One is walking capacity a little bit more, one is emotional stability, one is sleeping better, one is being able to digest food a little bit better. You might not get the one that you want. If you keep playing the game though and responding well, you'll get everything eventually.
That's a really good analogy. You know,
Yeah.
when you're responding well, when you're going through these progress cycles, like, you essentially are paying a price to get your health back. It's not easy, but you're making deposits into recovery over and over and over again. And it may not seem like a lot at first, but these things compound over time because, let's say you make a bunch of deposits in recovery, you go through a bunch of adjustment periods, you know, you leveling up even just 10 or 20%. I don't like to talk about percentages, but even you leveling up just a little bit physically, that's the difference between you being stuck at home and you now being able to go get groceries or go sit at a dinner table with friends and laugh and enjoy yourself. Like, those are 2 different worlds. Being stuck at home and being able to see friends and hang out with them and have a social life again. And that doesn't require you being completely symptom free, 100% recovered, perfect, right? So it may seem like a little bit of capacity increases, but those little increases can make a huge difference. It paints a very different picture for what your life looks like. And with this analogy, sometimes just by the luck of the draw, you can go through 10 progress cycles, and all 10 you increase capacity physically. And then the next 5 adjustment periods, physical activity stays the same, and you actually just expand emotionally and cognitively. We actually see it a lot. Sometimes I feel like initially people see a lot of improvements emotionally because they can handle the symptoms better. And then after that, then their physical activity makes a huge jump. And then that kind of it kind of, I wouldn't say flatlines, but it slows down. The rate of improvement slows down for physical, and then it goes to cognitive. But it just take what you can get from the nervous system. Either way, you're regaining capacity overall. So I think that's a great question. I like this analogy. We should make a video about that. That's a good one. And how do we know if we're handling an AP well? Well, if you're responding the best you can, I'd say that's handling it well. But if you're thinking if you're responding well or not, that's a question you can just completely cut out. Because even you just thinking that is probably making you not respond the best you can, right? So when you notice yourself questioning how you're responding, we're just getting layers and layers deep into something that doesn't even matter. It's like thought inception. It's like you're thinking about your thoughts. It's not really gonna, it's not gonna really move the needle forward. So is staying calm enough? Yeah, absolutely. And responding well and handling an AP well, really the goal here is to try to stay neutral. You don't necessarily need to be happy and excited about the symptoms. I think there's a misconception that people think that you have to be happy during APs, or if you see symptoms, instead of being sad, you feel happy. Instead of being angry about the symptoms, you feel excited. You don't have to be excited. You don't have to be happy. All you have to be is not that negative emotion. You just have to neutralize it, right? So the more you can get to a neutral state where the symptoms can come, the thoughts can come, and you're just like, whatever. When you can get to that state, that's where you make tons and tons of progress. That's actually where we want to get you to. The reason why I flipped it on its head, and for example, me personally, once I got good at this stuff, I'd have symptoms, and when I would start feeling the fear, I would immediately flip it and say, oh, good. Yeah, bring on more symptoms. Let's see what you could do, nervous system. Come on, give me more. Give me more. Give me your best symptoms. Make it as hard as you can. But that was just to neutralize it. Really, the goal was to neutralize that negative emotion. So the more neutral you can get, the better. But it doesn't always have to be perfect. Like, we're humans. You're going to have emotions around it, which is the more neutral, the better. Cool. Thanks for the question, Simon.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Question: depression. Is depression a normal part of APs and not just physical symptoms? Yes, absolutely. In fact, some people, depression hits them even harder than the symptoms do. Some people, they can handle the symptoms, but when that depression hits, when that anxiety and that hopelessness and loss of motivation hits, that is what really bothers them. But just know that your brain and your nervous system knows that this is your kryptonite. This is the thing that can make you feel unsafe. It's trying to make you feel unsafe, so that way you can stop doing all activities, right? So depression, it's very, very normal. Just know that it's temporary. And when you do feel these things and you're in this dark cloud, just tell yourself this is temporary. And think of how many times have you experienced this in the past and then it went away eventually. It eventually goes away, whether it's a few hours or a few days, maybe even a couple weeks, but it does go away. The clouds always clear and part, and the sunshine always comes back, just like the weather. So that's how I would think of it. Just really look at it as a temporary thing. And it's very common. But Junior, you have anything to say about that, or I covered it?
Same thing, man. Yeah. It's see it as a symptom, see it as temporary, see it as your brain trying to do everything it can to stop you from living your life. Because that's what it is,
Yeah.
essentially. When you feel sad, when you feel the loss of motivation, when you feel what is the point, right? When you feel like that, you don't want to do anything for the day. So
Yeah.
you kind of just sit there, sulk, and dwell. And then your brain says, yes, I got him. I got him feeling this way, which means he's not going to go out into the world, right? Imagine somebody who feels depression and says, wow, I feel sad and not motivated and this and this and this. Well, I'm still going to go do my things, even though I feel this way, but I'm still going to go do my things though, right? Even if I don't feel like it. And then the brain goes, you know what? The whole point of me making you feel this way so you don't do your so you're going to just go do those things even if you feel like this. Well, dang. Now I can't use this against him anymore, right? And
Mhm.
so that was a big part of me taking my power back, cuz before it was big victim mentality where I have a depressed day, I feel low motivation, low, I don't feel like doing anything, so I won't do anything. And the brain says mission accomplished. And I flip that on its head and say, I don't feel like doing anything. I feel sad today. I feel this and that. I'm still gonna challenge myself gently. Gently is a big part of it, right? I didn't wanna be too aggressive with it, but I'm gonna challenge myself gently to still make today at least somewhat productive if I can, and not try to sulk and sit around all day. And then my brain says, "Well, damn, can't use that one against him anymore." So, I
Mhm.
observed it as
Yeah.
a symptom for what it was.
Yeah. And I would change the way you talk about depression, Jackie, to feelings of depression versus
Mhm.
depression. Depression, one thing I wouldn't recommend doing is identifying with that term, or having it become a part of you, of your identity. Separate it from yourself. It's just a feeling. It comes and goes. Just like, sometimes you'll be happy, sometimes you'll be sad, sometimes you'll be anxious. So we're all of these things, right? But if we identify with just one, I guess, blanket term, it can become part of us, and over time, it can start to become who we are, and that's not a good place to be. So I would swap out some words, or just add two words in the beginning here: feelings of depression.
Mm.
They're a normal part of APs, right? It's not an identity, and that's really going to help. Here's a good one. From all the people you've worked with, what would you say is the average time it takes to be living a more normal life, meaning a typical day, family, caring for kids, cleaning, cooking, walks, etc.? So it's a good question. Um, it's similar to asking how long does it take to get a six pack. It's like, okay, what are the factors? What's your diet like? How much are you exercising? How much do you weigh to begin with? Do you have experience working out? So there's so many factors. I wouldn't be able to tell you specifically, but I can give you a range. I can tell you what I've seen. Now, in terms of the range, I've seen many different ranges. The craziest recovery, the fastest one, this guy was like a genius. The concepts just clicked for him right away. And he had an engineering background. So once things made logical sense, he recovered very quickly. And I'm talking, he was mainly bedridden. Yeah, he was bedridden. The only time he really stood up was to go to the washroom 2 to 3 times a day. Other than that, he was in his bed. 3.5 weeks later, this dude is biking to work. And I'm not making this up. This is all recorded. This is documented. And he was running a company. He was about to give up that company, shut it down. And then 3.5 weeks later, he's biking to work and starting to swim again. Now, he had symptoms. He still had some symptoms. They were lingering, but most of those things went away. He had the blood pooling in his legs. He had, lots of headaches, pain in his body, brain fog to the point where he was about to shut his business down. So I've seen it happen that fast, but I've also seen people who were semi-functional, still working, still going about living their life. I've seen them, recover and get to that same level in like a year or a year and a half. So it really depends on how much you use the tools, how much uh, brain rewiring are you doing, how well are you responding to the symptoms? Are you taking 100% full ownership of where you're at right now and doing your best to respond well to symptoms? Like, are you actually pulling back when you're feeling overwhelmed? Are you putting yourself first, or are you still saying yes to all of these obligations that you feel like you have? So I've seen people who were very severe recover in extremely fast times, like 3, 4, 5 months. There's one guy just right now. He posted yesterday in the Recovery Academy. I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago when he started. He wasn't even leaving his house to go on walks. I think that was part of his initial plan, was just to go on like a 1 minute walk outside his house. He ran 3 kilometers the other day. He had some symptoms, but he ran 3 kilometers and he was feeling solid, right? And so I would say it really depends on where you're at and how much you implement the principles. Just like working out, right? It can take a month to get a six pack. If you go really extreme, it could take 2 months. You could take your time with it. It could take 2 years. So it really depends. But I can say this, for most people, it can happen a lot faster than you think. I think most people, whatever stage they're at, most people, they can get their life back within a year, right? Within a year, regardless if you're bedridden, if you're housebound, if you've had this for 20 years or 40, even 50 years, regardless of what symptoms you've had, as long as you've had other tests and scans from doctors and ruled out any other health issues, and this is a hypersensitive nervous system issue that the doctors can't help, and your tests are coming back normal, within a year, you should be able to fix this. That's the timeline we give people. You know, if you're following the plan and not even following it perfectly, if you're getting like 70% of it right, you should be able to get it done within a year. So that's what I would say. But you've seen all this stuff too, right, Junior? It's probably I mean, we've seen the same things. You know exactly who I'm talking about, right?
I've seen it vary absolutely from person to person, where they'll come to me 6 to 8 months later saying, "Junior, nothing's working. I'm not seeing any movement. I'm not seeing this." And then, like, on the ninth or 10th month, they'll come back to me with some kind of revelation saying, I think I just came to the realization that I haven't been responding well this entire time. And then they start responding well. And then that's when their recovery journey actually starts to begin as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. There could be delayed effects where, you're planting these seeds in recovery. You're actually doing all the right things, but it takes time for, I guess, if we were thinking about this like a garden, you're planting these seeds, you're making these deposits into recovery, and you're doing all this work, planting everything, and you don't really see anything. You don't see massive change until like month 3 or 4 or 5. And then next thing you know, things just go through the roof and all those plants or flowers just burst through the ground. And next thing you know, you got a full garden, you got a full life. That I just did a recovery interview yesterday with your Thriver, Junior. Shout out to Juliet. If she's watching
yeah.
this right now. Amazing story. She was completely bedridden for 9 months. 9 months, didn't sit up at a dinner table to eat, blindfold, earplugs, dark room. Um, and she actually, this is right after she had beat cancer as well, right? And then for a handful of months, wasn't getting anywhere, completely stuck, but she was doing her best. And then we shifted a few things. Next thing you know, she's eating up at a dinner table, walking outside, doing all these things. And then within a year, she's now running her own business, traveling. She's working, she's exercising, she's in the gym doing weights, and then she's starting to run again. So, it's really remarkable what the body's capable of. And so if you just keep following the main principles, it's going to change something in your body. It's just inevitable at some point. Could be month 1, could be month 3, 4, 5, 6, where you see that huge breakthrough. But overall, you're building momentum, and next thing you have that hockey stick moment, we like to call it, where your recovery is like, okay, you're making improvements, okay, making improvements, boom, then it shoots up like a rocket ship. And then you make like 10 times the amount of progress in 3 weeks than you did in the last 6 months. So it shoots up and then it stabilizes and then it shoots up again. So I hope that kind of paints a picture for you, Aislinn. So there's no exact answer for this, but it can range. The biggest factors are how much you're implementing these frameworks and principles. What else? Yeah, I would say, how much are you implementing the principles? Number one. Number two is, and this is the most important one, how well are you responding to symptoms? That's the number one indicator. If you just do that right, you're going to recover.
Mm.
All righty, let's see. Let's look at some questions here. Wow, lots of comments.
Time flies, man. We have like 10 minutes left,
Yeah. Holy cow.
right?
Let's see. Consider. Here we go. Simple question. Is air hunger caused by nervous system? My oxygen is always good. Yeah. If your oxygen is always good, it's a hypersensitive nervous system issue. I had this a lot in the hospital. They actually were giving me oxygen because I was telling them I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Like I can't take a breath. My lungs aren't working. And then they're checking my oxygen levels. It's perfectly fine. It's like 99% and 100%. But I was begging them for oxygen. I remember this one day I kind of freaked out and they thought my lungs were shutting down. And then as soon as my doctor came into the room and he said, Miguel, great news. All your tests are fine. It's like all of a sudden my lungs started working again. And I got my breath back.
They probably
That's
just
how
gave you oxygen just to calm you down at that point.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so. Like at first they were really concerned because the nurses were running in and out. But then once they saw my oxygen levels, they were like, okay. They ran in, did an emergency x-ray on my chest. They're like, well, maybe his lungs collapsed or something. And it was perfectly fine. But I could have sworn there was an elephant sitting on my chest. I swear, like I really couldn't control it. It's like my body was paralyzed. My doctor comes in and says, well, great news, Miguel. The x-ray shows your chest is perfectly fine. You're going to be okay. And all of a sudden, it's like I took this huge deep breath and I felt calm again. So I think that's when I realized something's going on here. Something is going on here and it ain't physical. I mean, it is physical. It's in the brain, but nothing that the doctors could detect. And that's when they started to catch on like, hey, this could be a brain miscommunication issue with the body. That's how they figured it out. All right, let's see here. Brain chemistry test. Brain chemistry test, and they were all bottomed out. Would just doing the brain rewiring help raise the levels, or is there more you have to do? Okay, if the tests actually show something, and this is for any kind of test, I definitely lean on the doctor's guidance and their suggestions. They might have to give you some stuff to rebalance those things out. But if you are having all the other unexplainable symptoms, you could be having a mix of both, you know, a hypersensitive nervous system and some brain chemistry that does need to be leveled out. So if stuff does show up on the test, that's why we always say go get it checked. Then explore it with the doctors, because you may have to do some manual intervention there, you know, just for the time being. Shout out to Geraldine. Just love the program. It has the best coaches and community. Let's see here. Some basic questions. Is it normal to have extreme weakness in arms, shoulders, and legs? Yes. Very, very normal. All righty. What other questions we got here? Okay, here we go. A little bit more of a complex question. Hey, everybody. How can I know what is my baseline if I have severe POTS, tachycardia, and heart pounding all the time? I can't really leave the house because of this. I also have mast cell activation syndrome and insomnia. Yeah. You want to dive into this, Junior?
Sure. To first to give advice about the POTS and the tachycardia and the heart pounding all the time. With POTS, the thing with POTS, because I had POTS, especially in the beginning, it can make it very difficult to stand because the heart rate goes at, quite high. First and foremost, like we say with everybody, get your heart checked, right? Make sure that's come back okay, right? After it's come back okay, we got a big a POTS girl on the coaching team. Her name's Adrienne as well. And what Adrienne learned actually early on in recovery is that regardless of heart rate, she took her power back by realizing that even if she has a really high heart rate, she can gently challenge that a little bit and do things even with a really high heart rate. She had her heart checked, everything came back clear, it was okay. So that's kind of how she approached that. I would love to have a conversation with you one on one so we could speak on this further. Um, so the reason why I answered it in the way that I did is because you mentioned you have tachycardia and heart pounding, and that's the reason you can't really leave the house, right? So maybe reframing that a little bit and saying, I actually can leave the house. I just have to do it gently. I have to do it quite slowly and I have to take it easy. And I have to be a little bit creative with it, even if I do have a really high heart rate and a really high, intense heart pounding, as long as my results came back clear. So that's how I would direct you in that way. Um,
Mhm.
and then the
Yeah.
last part doesn't really seem like a question. It's just more so reassurance of, is this normal during CFS, which is the MCAS and the insomnia, which it absolutely is for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, just reading the question off the top of my head, this reminds me of a very specific case. Someone who had very severe MCAS. She was only eating, I think, about 6 foods for about a year, and she had lots of POTS, lots of tachycardia and palpitations, things like that. Just hypersensitive to everything. And at this stage, when you're almost always symptomatic, it sounds like you're always symptomatic actually, just understand that regardless if you sit up or you stand up or even take a few steps outside, either way your heart's going to pound, and it's going to have that extreme reaction. So I dealt with this a lot as well. So whether I rolled over in bed in the hospital or I was sitting up in a wheelchair, you know my heart was still pounding either way. So I was like, okay, I'd rather start expanding activity. I'd rather start sitting in a wheelchair, because if I'm going to feel the symptoms anyways, I might as well start building my body up, if I'm going to feel these anyways. Because in a state like this, it's very rare. I've almost actually never seen this where you can wait for the symptoms to go away and then start doing activity. It's not really how it works. It's like you you might be in a place where as you do activities, yeah, it'll be quite intense at first. Like if you go stand outside or if you sit up more or go for a very, very short, slow walk where your body might stabilize. Like your heart rate will be pounding in the beginning, but then it might actually slow down because it's trying to find an equilibrium right now. It's very confused. It has no reference point of what to get back to. So sometimes you need to remind it like, hey, this is what it feels like to do activity. This is what it feels like when I'm resting. And it can help your nervous system, I guess, switch into different gears. Because right now there's only one gear, which is let's make the heart pound like crazy. So I think, and we'd have to know more about your specific situation, but this sounds like a case where you actually want to do more activity. Not a lot, but just get moving, because you're going to feel the symptoms regardless. And a lot of times we see, again, we have to figure out which stage of recovery you're at. Like, you're bedridden, housebound, couchbound, what are the other symptoms going on? You might be in a place where as you do more stuff, it'll actually lower your symptoms, because sometimes that does happen. So
Mhm.
just know this does go away. This is one of those annoying symptoms, but it does go away.
I would love for her to have a conversation with Coach Adrienne because, you think about it, Miguel. Adrienne had POTS, tachycardia, high heart rate, and insomnia. It's
Mhm.
literally the same exact thing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I also had this too.
yeah.
It's like you have to go through that stage of discomfort, though. There's no way to get over it by waiting for it to go away. It'll just keep happening.
Mhm.
But let's go for one more question here. Oh, here we go. Bianca. Any golden nuggets of motivation for someone on her last leg of recovery? Thanks, you guys. So this would be someone who's in the high yellow. They're already
Mhm.
reintegrated into life. They're
Mhm.
probably they probably have their social life back, going out, maybe even potentially exercising and working. So probably some symptoms lingering based on the question. If you're considering yourself still on that journey of recovery, I would say honestly, the more you focus on just living your life, the less you're going to identify with being on a recovery journey. It's hard for me to tell when that transition happened of like, okay, I'm recovering and now I'm living life. I think once you realize, okay, I just need to go through these progress cycles, I just need to keep adding in activity. Um, that whole identity of being sick with this, it just sheds over time. And the more you focus on your hobbies and your career and just doing things in life that you really enjoy that take your mind off of the symptoms, the less you're going to identify with that. And you won't even consider yourself needing to, I guess, complete the journey. Because at first, when we're trying to recover, we're thinking, where's that finish line? When am I going to be done with this? When do I finish this journey, basically, and conquer this? And you realize that's what it is. It's a journey. There is no completion. It's just life. So I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but you realize there is no finish line. Essentially, there is no like, I'm done. I've reached peak health. I'm good to go. Because even after you, I guess, get rid of the symptoms, you probably gonna want to get healthier. You could eat healthier. You could always work out more. You could always train up to running a marathon if you want. There's always more potential in the tank. So that's why I never think of the journey as really complete. That whole CFS journey, yeah, it was a small part of a larger journey, essentially. It was a cloudy part. There were a lot of darker moments, but overall, it was just part of the bigger journey of just life in general. But what would you say, Junior?
I'd say something along the lines very similar. A little story from me before I let you all go. I spoke to somebody, had a one-on-one check-in call with them. They're in the very, very end stages of recovery, where they're pretty much fully functional, but they still have a couple lingering things left, right? Oh, someone is at my front door. Anyways, um, and you know what she did? She had that call with me whilst running errands. So she had her phone with her, right? And during that call, she was telling me about, yeah, I can walk, I can do this, I can work, I can whatever it was. But she was telling me how she was arguing with back and forth with an individual on Facebook. And then she was in her car and she put the phone on the little phone holder while she was driving, and she was beeping at people and yelling and cursing people out that cut her off while she was driving. Then she took me around with her in the grocery store, and then she proceeded to yell at the employee at the grocery store and then get a little bit snarky with the person at the cash register. And then at the end of the call, she says, "But I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know why this is not improving for me." And so I had a reminder. So you're telling me that you've recovered up until this point, but now you're continuing to yell at employees at the grocery store, have road rage while you're driving, and then argue back and forth and then inject your opinions constantly with people who don't ask for it online. And you're asking me why you're not getting better. Because at this point, I don't think it's a matter of you not trying. I think it's just simply a lack of awareness. And so, I had to point these things out for her, some very harsh truths. But at the end of the day, overall, it's gaining that awareness, becoming better, changing your habits, especially at the very, very end. Take care of yourself, exercise, eat healthy, but work on growing into becoming more mature, more regulated. At that point in recovery, it's not about how you respond to symptoms. You barely have symptoms at that point. It's about how you tackle stress, how you respond to life. It's how you move through things that make you uncomfortable. And that's the stuff that even Miguel and I still practice up until this day, which is why we keep going and are able to sustain our recovered selves. I think that's been the most important thing for me, and hopefully for a lot of you guys too, to pay attention to. If you're unaware of the things that you're doing in a dysregulated way, especially very high up, ask other people, whether it's a coach, a family member, a friend. Tell them to be honest with you. We never gain our own awareness by just self-reflecting in an echo chamber. It just doesn't happen like that. Okay? So that would be my input on that, Miguel.
Yeah, so true. So hope you guys enjoy this call. I know there are a lot of other questions we weren't able to get to all of them. But hey, if you did need some extra help, if you did need some more guidance on your journey, you want more personalization, and if you wanted a specific plan where, people like myself, Junior, the other coaches will literally build you a plan so you know exactly what to do and also update it, you can always apply for the Recovery Academy, or join it. I'm going to leave a link in the comments over here. We would love to be able to help you on your journey if we can, if you are a good fit for it. We just have to make sure there's nothing else going on medically and that you've been cleared, and that this would be a good fit. But if you did want some extra help, you can click that link, you can apply and see if you're a good fit. We do have a group starting up for April. Got a few more spots available for our one-on-one coaching program. So if you did need help, we're here for you. Unfortunately, right now, we do not have a Spanish program. But if you're typing English right now, you'd be perfectly fine. Like the girl I talked to yesterday, she literally only spoke French and she still joined. And this is the girl who's bedridden for 9 months and she recovered because she caught on. We make it very, very simple for people to follow. So hope you guys enjoy this one. If you need extra help, we're here for it. If not, go implement these principles and we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
See you on the
Bye-bye.
next live.